Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, on this wonderful Wednesday for what is going to be an interesting video. We are going to be recapping on the 10 altcoins that we were looking at breakouts for and a retest of the point in which you broke out from. Now, this is very bullish because I think what this is essentially doing, at the point of breakout, you've initiated the uptrend, and with the bouncing off support, you've essentially confirmed it. And we know that Bitcoin is on the cusp of rearing its head. We'll talk about that. And ultimately, the altcoin market that has really capitulated under Bitcoin's weakness is going to excel under Bitcoin's strength. And all 10 of these altcoins, we're actually going to show you 11 because the king of the altcoins, Ethereum, very much showing a similar thing, are, in my opinion, destined for higher prices. And some of these altcoins may be altcoins that you hold. We have previously covered 11 other altcoins that we were bullish on for different reasons. But what looking at these 11 altcoins are going to do is kind of give you broader confidence in regards to the direction the altcoin market is going in generally. The 11 altcoins that we did look at, we'll leave a link in the description, all had falling wedge patterns that we thought they had broken out of. Now, these 11 altcoins we're bullish on for a different reason. We're predominantly on the daily time frame in regards to those falling wedge structures. We're going to be predominantly looking at a weekly time frame. We're going to be looking at market structures. You guys will know that we like to teach something in our market mastery course called phase analysis. We break the markets down into 4 phases. We essentially think markets move in this wave-like fashion. And for all of these altcoins, you are looking at the upward curve in your wave-like structure, which markets tend to rinse and repeat. And in regards to breaking out from your base into your uptrend, often what happens is you get that breakout initially on volume, you get a decline in volume, a retest, and then continuation. You've got 2 golden buying opportunities. One's when you break out of your base, your phase 1 base, whether that be a range, inverse head and shoulder, whatever the pattern may be. Doesn't even need to be a pattern, can just be a range like base motion, resistance, support. You break out of that resistance, that initiates the uptrend. Great time to buy on that breakout. And then an even better time to buy potentially on the retest, certainly if you bounce off it, confirming that an uptrend is now about to ensue. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing that I want to do is actually talk about Bitcoin, because altcoins aren't really largely going to do anything if Bitcoin doesn't allow it. And when we look at the Bitcoin chart, those of you that watch me daily will know that we look at a number of technical patterns that give us confluence in regards to the direction that Bitcoin is heading in. When we look at the smaller time frame, we do think Bitcoin is likely on the cusp of a breakout. This is very much a broadening flag-like structure that Bitcoin is in, that we ultimately think it's going to break to the upside of. And when we look at the altcoin market, it's largely just followed Bitcoin's price action and really given way under Bitcoin's weakness. You can see the altcoin being a volatile market, a higher beta market, really just has sort of given way under Bitcoin's weakness. We think with Bitcoin rearing its head, that's going to coincide with Bitcoin dominance rolling, and you're about to see a resurgence for the altcoin space. When we look at the total cryptocurrency market cap, we very much think this is a flag-like structure that's ultimately going to lead to upside. And we don't think you're too far away from it at all, ladies and gentlemen. The beautiful thing is when we looked at those 11 altcoins and those falling wedges the other day, it kind of paints a bullish picture across the altcoin space broadly. And then when we look at these 11 altcoins that we're about to dive into, from a market structure point of view, you're doing exactly what you want to see in regards to initiating a broader uptrend. You've broken out across the board. I say across the board for many altcoins, certainly the larger ones. You've now came back for a retest and you're looking for that broader continuation. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive into the video. Now, we looked at these 10 altcoins in 2 separate videos previously. They've all progressed significantly since we looked at that. Many of them have actually bounced off of that support that we were expecting to happen. We're now expecting a broader uptrend to continue. But one of the altcoins that we didn't look at, although it's very applicable in regards to a breakout, is Ethereum. So this is typically what happens when you break out. You'll get a retest. Now, I did initially think this might be the retest, but it does look like this is the retest in a very S&P 500-esque manner before the S&P then embarked on a pretty substantial uptrend. You can see breakout here. This is your base into your retest and then continuation. Ethereum is showing S&P-like structure that we think is going to lead it to the promised land. Remember, we're bullish on Bitcoin that's going to permission the space. We did that video where we looked at a number of altcoins. Coincidentally, with these altcoins, when they're looking to bounce off support, these altcoins have now broken out of the 11 that we looked at previously, falling wedge patterns that we ultimately think is going to lead to continuation. So this was an altcoin that we didn't look at, but it very much shows what we want to see. Remember, your markets move in this kind of a fashion. And ultimately, we break this down into 4 phases. We can show you this time and time again. The altcoin, or one of the altcoins that we looked at, was AVAX. Now, we think this is your phase 1 base for AVAX. You've now had a breakout. What I'm going to do, actually, guys, is go ahead and put the volume on here, because with breakouts, they should be accompanied with volume. So we now have the volume on here. You can see volume on the breakout, a descending volume into a pullback, ready for that acceleration of volume that we do think you're on the back end of. And we ultimately think this is going to lead to a broader uptrend. And that was initiated at this breakout here and confirmed at this retest over here. So that's altcoin number 1 is AVAX, or number 2, I should say. We looked at Ethereum first with its breakout, then its retest, and now you're ultimately, in our opinion, setting up for that continuation. We looked at AVAX next. ICP is another one. So we are very bullish on ICP from a fundamental point of view, but also from a technical point of view. We think ICP is showing some really promising signs. This is your phase 1 base. You have a breakout on volume. You have a declining volume whilst a pullback occurs. You're likely going to see a resurgence in volume and a continuation of the uptrend that we think ICP and these other altcoins are now in, having broken out of their basing structure. Those of you that are familiar with Wyckoff's market cycles, you'll be familiar with the accumulation. There was ultimately an upside or an uptrend that then follows accumulation after insiders have accumulated, distribution at the top, and then a downtrend. The next altcoin that we have for you is Chainlink. You can see this breakout in volume, a decline in volume, into a bit of a resurgence, not significantly of volume. We think that's still to come. All around the prior resistance now acting and holding you as support. So this was a range where we were accumulating the majority of Chainlink, breakout, retest, Chainlink looking likely to see that continuation on the back end of it. We also have Dogecoin. So Dogecoin, you can see its base is very obvious. Very much a range like base that Dogecoin was in. Ultimately, we had a breakout of this again on volume. The retest of support, which you're currently being held at, having been previously resistance on a declining volume. We're looking for that expansion in volume and ultimately the further continuation of phase 2, which we do believe the likes of Dogecoin is now. And also a falling wedge on Dogecoin and the likes of Chainlink. The next altcoin that I have for you is, of course, Helium. We were looking at this falling wedge structure, very compliant, into support, a breakout from that support, and now essentially looking at that continuation. So this is your phase 1 base, very range-like breakouts. Unfortunately, there's no volume here because this is the crypto chart. Retest, ready for continuation. It's run into a little bit of resistance here. We ultimately think it's going to push through in line with the altcoin market generally. Remember, we looked at Total 2. One that we also have for you is Theta. The breakout was on volume. The retest is on declining volume. You're likely going to see an acceleration in regards to this, and we do think phase 2 is well and truly underway for these specific charts. We then looked at the graph. You can see phase 1 base, very double bottomy, a breakout on volume, a retest on declining volume. You're likely going to see continuation off of the back end of this. And again, use this as a kind of indication for what's to come for the altcoin space more broadly. The next one that I have, of course, is Shiba. Now, some of these have bounced off of that support that we were expecting more significantly than others, but you can see your phase 1 base, breakout, monumental on volume, decline in volume, falling wedge into previous resistance, now flip support, and a massive bounce off of it. This bounce, I think, was something like 100 or so percent, 74%, so about 20 something percent off, 26% off, 74, 26, is that right? Maybe, who knows? Ultimately, we do think this is now in a broader uptrend, and what really kicks the uptrend off is always that, markets literally do this. Wyckoff really taught that this is your accumulation. You get that break, you get that retest, and then you get that continuation, and then you get the top, you get the breakdown, and so on and so forth. This is very much how markets move, and you're at that kind of interval of the base into the bull, and that aligns with what we think is going to come next. So Bitcoin, with it rearing its head, and generally the space. We're very bullish on the cryptocurrency space. So we spoke about Shiba. We also spoke about LivePeer, very much respecting its resistance level, ready for what we believe is going to be continuation. And then, of course, an interesting one, which isn't sort of basing, it's well and truly an uptrend, is Solana also finding itself at support. So this was a useful video because when we look across some of the major altcoins out there in regards to how we analyze market cycles, you can see that not only have many of them broken out into uptrends, they've actually came back for a retest of their previous resistance level in much the same manner that the SPY did, which we also called here on the channel. And they've ultimately got this broader uptrend ahead of them, which is in line with a lot of the cycles that we look at in regards to global liquidity, in regards to things such as sort of election cycles, the 4-year cycle, ultimately, technically, the targets that we have for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's doing well, the altcoins are typically going to do well, so on and so forth. When we look at the stock market, we're still bullish on the stock market and expect that continuation. The SPY at new all-time highs again today. We're very much expecting that after FOMC and some of the patterns that we were looking at going into it. When we look at the altcoin space, there's very much been a breakout, a retest, and now that broader uptrend is yet to take place. Now is the optimal time, ladies and gentlemen, to be interested in the cryptocurrency space. And if you guys want to find out what I'm buying, where I'm buying, do consider becoming a Patreon. There's a thriving community in there that is only growing day by day, and we'd love you to be a part of it. So that is really it from me, ladies and gentlemen. What we wanted to show you in this video was a recap of those 10 altcoins that we looked at and we threw in Ethereum, and showing you that there's been progression of them, and actually now is that kind of interval or that intersection in regards to we've broken out of our kind of slumber, our basing or accumulation structure. There's been that breakout into what is now we believe going to lead to a broader uptrend. There's been a retest. We're just getting ready for that continuation. That's it from me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to love and leave you on that note. Have a wonderful Wednesday, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next.